String processing. All right, now first of all, what is string processing? String processing is manipulating each individual character within a string, one character at a time. Right? Now, why would somebody want to do that? Why would somebody want to process a string? Well, there's many reasons. For example, let's say you want to make sure somebody's password, their chosen password, is valid. You want to make sure that it's long enough, that it has both uppercase and lowercase letters. You want to make sure that there's no semicolons or underscores or any other special characters like that, so on and so forth. Another reason, maybe you want to take an essay and you want to remove slang words like LOL or OMG from the essay. You want to have those erased from it. Or you want to convert each lowercase letter to an uppercase letter, or vice versa. There's many reasons why an application might need to process a string. Now, in this video, we're going to illustrate one example of a string processing method, just to give us an idea how these algorithms work and how they're coded. And what that method will do is determine whether or not a string is a palindrome. Now, what is a palindrome? A palindrome is a word that is spelled the same backwards and forward. Examples are race car, noon, mom, civic. Each of these words are examples of words that, if you flip them horizontally, it'll still spell out the same exact word. All right. So, how will our method do this? Well, suppose this is my string, str. To do this, to iterate through each individual character in the string, I'm going to need a for loop. And my for loop will start with I equals to 0, as most for loops do. Right. Then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare I'm going to start off comparing the first character in the string to the last character in the string. Right. Now, what is the index of the last character in the string? Well, in this case, it's 6, but that's because the length of the string is 7. Not all strings you look at will have 7 characters. Some strings will have 10, some will have 5, so on and so forth. So, in the general case, the index of the last character is equal to the length of the string minus 1. So this method will always start by comparing the character at index 0 to the character at str.length minus 1. All right, so let's do that. 0 and 6 both have the letter R, so this checks off. All right. Next, we want to increment the I value, and also move from str.length minus 1 to str.length minus 2. And we want to compare the two characters there. Once again, it checks off. They are the same. Now, we increase I minus 2 while also decreasing the right side. We compare, once again, the characters match. All is well. Increment the I value again, now I equals 3, and we decrement the right side. In this case, that brings us to one character. Obviously, any character compared to itself will pass the equality test, so this checks off. I increments again, now I equals 4, but at this point, we've passed the halfway point of the string, which means we've done all the comparing we need to do. So at this point, the for loop stops. And the fact that we've made it to the end of the for loop without any of the comparisons failing tells us that this is a palindrome and the method will return true. Now, here's how this method would look like if written in code. So this method, I'll call it is palindrome. It'll return a boolean because it's going to return true if the string is a palindrome and false if not. The method begins by obtaining the length of the string and storing it in an int variable named length. Then we go to our for loop where I is initialized to 0 and increases by 1 as long as it's less than the length divided by 2. Normally, we go from 0 to the length, but as we illustrated, that's not necessary because reaching the halfway point is all we need to do to make all the comparisons necessary. Then, once we enter the for loop, I obtain the character at position I. Then I obtain the second character at position length minus 1 minus I. I compare those characters. If they don't match, I return false. Otherwise, the for loop continues. And if this method makes it through the entire for loop without having returned false, clearly the string passed all the tests, thus the method will return true. All right, now here's the second way we could perform the if palindrome method. What the second way does is it declares a second string named str2 and initializes it to an empty string, all right? 2 double quote signs. Then, like the first way, we enter a for loop, but rather than start at 0, we're going to start at the back of the string, all right? str.length minus 1. And what we're going to do is concatenate each character onto str2 starting at the back. So first the letter M gets concatenated, then I gets decreased, then we concatenate the next character, then I gets decreased again, then we concatenate the next character, then I gets decreased again, then we concatenate the next character, I gets decreased, concatenate, I gets decreased, concatenate, I gets decreased, concatenate once more, I gets decreased. Right. Then, now that we've concatenated each character in str in reverse order, we're now going to compare str and str2 using the dot equals method. If the equals method returns true, then clearly we have a palindrome. If it returns false, then we do not have a palindrome, and the method will return false. All right, now here's how this method would look in code. So like we said earlier, like before, if palindrome still returns a boolean, it still takes a single string as an argument. Then when we go inside the method, it declares a second string named str2, sets it equal to the empty string. Then we go to our for loop, we initialize I to str.length minus 1. Right, and it's going to decrease by 1 each time for as long until it's no longer greater than or equal to 0. Then when we enter the for loop, I declare a character and then obtain the character at index I of str. Then I concatenate that character onto str2 using the addition operator. Then after the for loop completes, I create an if statement comparing str and str2. If equals returns true, then the method returns true. If it doesn't, then the method will return false.